Welcome to the deep dive. I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you're walking down a rainy street.
Okay, setting a mood. I like it.
Right, so you're walking, and you lock eyes with a total stranger, and suddenly you're hit with, like, the most intense, mind-bending wave of déjà vu you have ever experienced in your life.
Oh, wow. Like stops you in your tracks kind of feeling.
Exactly. But it's not just a fleeting feeling, you know? You suddenly remember with absolute terrifying certainty that you have loved this person and killed this person in a dozen different lifetimes.
Which is incredibly heavy for a Tuesday afternoon walk.
Yeah, seriously. Now imagine finding out that this isn't just a trick of the mind. Those are actual memories of past lives bleeding through. Because
Yeah.
your reality is essentially procedurally generated, and you and the stranger are, well, you're a glitch that the universe is desperately trying to delete.
It is a premise that completely shatters our standard understanding of memory and, well, existence itself. I mean, it takes the idea of personal connection and gives it actual, measurable destructive gravity.
And that is the wild mission of our deep dive today. We are looking at a fascinating sci-fi narrative called Memo from the Void.txt by the author Gemses.
It's such a brilliant source text.
It really is. It's a story that brilliantly collides high-concept quantum physics with the soul-crushing banality of corporate bureaucracy. And it wraps it all around a romance that literally tears the fabric of reality apart.
Literally, not metaphorically.
Right, literally tears it apart. Today, we are going to figure out what happens when consciousness evolves faster than the universe's operating system can handle. So, okay, let's unpack this. Before we get to the romance that breaks reality, we really need to understand the reality itself. Like, how does the universe in this story actually function?
Well, to understand the glitch, we first have to understand the operating system. In this reality, the universe is governed by something called the Void Management Division.
Which sounds incredibly ominous.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And existence isn't a single continuous timeline. It is procedurally generated. Think of it like branching probability.
Yeah.
Every time consciousness makes a choice whether to turn left or right or, whether to speak up or stay silent, probabilities collapse.
Yeah.
And new timelines branch off to accommodate those choices.
Okay, so if I drop a coffee mug right now, the universe essentially calculates a branch where it shatters and a branch where I catch it in time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And in theory, both of those branches exist simultaneously.
Okay.
But the only reason this massive, sprawling multiverse stays stable is because of strict amnesia between the branches. The system relies on a firewall. You're supposed to be completely singular.
Meaning I only know about the mug I dropped.
Right. You live your one life in your one branch, totally unaware of the millions of other versions of you living out the consequences of all those different choices.
Okay, that makes sense. The system works because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. But then the firewall breaks. And that brings us to our central characters.
Yes. Elias Voss and Lena Solari, they are variants across these branches who trigger what the Void Management classifies as a Class 7 recognition event.
A Class 7 recognition event.
Yeah, which is very bad for management.
Yeah.
Because when they lock eyes in any given timeline, they don't just feel a spark of attraction. The amnesia wall shatters. They actually remember each other across the branches.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they remember killing each other. They remember loving each other in like 17 different languages.
Yeah, it's so much data for a human brain to hold.
It is. And there's this incredibly poignant detail in the source material where they share a memory of Elias dying of a slow infection on a white sand beach. And he's just laughing with Lena at the irony that after 17 lifetimes of actively murdering each other, he is finally being taken out by sepsis.
Which is strangely romantic in a very dark, very twisted way.
Absolutely.
But I'm trying to understand the physics of this, right? The text mentions that when they recognize each other in a new timeline, it causes a, quote, déjà fuck resonance cascade, end quote.
Best term ever.
It really is. But how does two people remembering a past life actually threaten the physical universe?
Because it threatens causality itself.
Yeah.
Let me give you the best example from the text, which is the moment of Schrodinger's murder.
Oh, yes. I love this part.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So Elias and Lena are hiding out in a hotel room together, and the universe trying to fix the glitch spawns an assassin's bullet right through the window to course correct them, to just take them out.
Right, the universe literally sends its own antivirus software.
Exactly. But the bullet never hits them. Because the sheer gravitational weight of their mutual recognition is punching a hole in causality. The bullet just stops in midair.
Just freeze
It
it.
embeds itself in the empty space above the bed, just spinning and spinning. The universe is caught in a loop. It literally cannot decide which timeline is the real one while the two of them are in the same room.
So it's like a video game procedurally generating a massive open world, but Elias and Lena are a corrupted save file that keeps overwriting the system. Every time the system tries to load the environment, their file forces it to load 17 environments at once.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. And that analogy answers the core question of why the universe reacts so violently to them. What's fascinating here is that the system isn't threatened by their love.
It's not.
No, love happens all the time. Love is part of the code. The system is threatened by their memory.
Wait, let me make sure I'm grasping this. Why is memory the fatal flaw here?
Because the multiverse requires amnesia to remain zero-sum and stable. The computing power of reality can only render one present moment at a time for any localized consciousness.
Right.
So when Elias and Lena remember their past lives, they pull the weight of 17 different timelines into one single moment. They are proving that a human mind can hold more than one reality at a time, which effectively crashes the procedural generation.
Okay, so if the cosmic operating system is crashing, who do you call? Like, who fixes a corrupted save file that big?
You call the universe's ultimate HR department. Down in Subbasement Infinity, we meet Karen.
I have to say, this broke me. I'm sorry, the architect of the multiverse is a middle manager named Karen.
She is the auditor eternal and accounting, to be exact.
Of course she is.
And the text paints this brilliant, mundane picture of cosmic bureaucracy. Karen has been balancing the multiverse's ledgers for 47,000 subjective years.
I can't even imagine that level of burnout.
Right. She sits in an office decorated only with a dead potted plant that she spitefully continues to water. And she drinks terrible coffee that her assistant keeps bringing her, even though she doesn't actually drink coffee.
That is painfully relatable. Just the utter exhaustion of middle management.
Exactly. She is exhausted, she is overworked, and she is entirely fed up with Elias and Lena breaking her carefully balanced equations.
So Karen has to close the ticket on these two. How does she deal with them?
She initiates something called Protocol Omega. It is a terrifying ultimatum. She forcibly collapses all the different versions of Elias and Lena across every branch into one single definite timeline.
Okay, pulling them all into one room, basically.
Right. And they have exactly 96 hours to exist together without breaking causality. If they cause another resonance cascade, they will be permanently erased from existence.
So not just killed in that branch?
No, deleted from the code entirely. No more do-overs.
Wow. That is the ultimate stress test. But what they do next really caught me off guard. You would think they would just hide in a basement and try not to think too hard for 4 days.
That would be the logical choice, yeah.
But they do the exact opposite.
They do. They go on the offensive.
Mhm.
They decide to take the timeline hostage. They track down a primary anchor point for reality, an old pre-collapse cathedral that functions as a probability lighthouse, basically keeping their specific branch of reality stable.
And they just completely corrupt it. Like, they bleed on the altar, they have sex on the altar. They basically graffiti the universe's foundational code with their shared existence.
They do.
They weave their anomaly so deeply into the anchor point that if Karen deletes them, the entire branch of reality collapses with them. But I really have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
I know we're supposed to root for the star-crossed lovers, but aren't Elias and Lena being incredibly selfish here? I mean, they are holding a gun to the head of billions of localized consciousnesses just to prove a point to a cosmic middle manager.
It is undeniably selfish.
Yeah.
You're right to point out the massive collateral damage at risk. They are playing a game of chicken with billions of lives.
Right.
But we have to look at the mechanics of why they take this extreme measure.
Which is?
They aren't trying to destroy the system out of malice. They were trying to force the system to adapt.
Adapt how, exactly?
Well, for 47,000 years, the universe's default response to something it doesn't understand is deletion. Just wipe the board and start over. Elias and Lena are asserting that their existence and the evolution of consciousness to retain cross-branch memory has a right to be part of the code.
Ah, I see. They're demanding to be recognized.
Exactly. And the gamble pays off. Karen looks at the sheer, undeniable reality of what they've done. She looks at the ledgers, and she decides not to delete them. Instead, she officially integrates their glitch into the system. She categorizes them as sanctioned anomalies.
So they win. But it's a Pyrrhic victory, right?
Right.
Because by surviving, they basically prove to the universe that cross-branch memory won't instantly kill you, and that triggers a viral awakening across the globe. We go from this isolated romantic anomaly to a massive societal crisis.
Exactly. The anomaly scales up exponentially. What started as just Elias and Lena quickly explodes to 70,000 recognized
It
consciousness.
is.
Yeah. People all over the city are suddenly waking up to the memories of their alternate lives in other branches. The Void Management actually has to hire Elias and Lena to act as counselors for these newly awakened pairs because the psychological toll is devastating.
Right, the text mentions a couple, Marcus and Yuki. Tell me about them, because that dynamic sounded horrifying.
It really is. Marcus and Yuki are classified as murder soulmates. They are a couple currently living together, but their awakening brought in vastly conflicting memories.
Oh, how conflicting.
Well, Marcus remembers a timeline where Yuki was his beloved wife for 40 years. But Yuki just downloaded the memories of 4 different branches where Marcus strangled her.
Oh my God.
So now they are sitting in their kitchen, throwing plates at each other, unable to reconcile the partner sitting in front of them with the murderer in their head.
How do you even sit across from someone at the dinner table with that playing in your mind? It's a complete psychological collapse. So, what does this all mean? I want you, the listener, to put yourself in their shoes for a second. Imagine waking up tomorrow and getting a mandatory software update for your brain.
A terrible update.
Truly. But instead of fixing bugs, it downloads massive amounts of trauma you didn't even ask for from lives you didn't actually live in this timeline. It would be unbearable. So it makes total sense that a massive counter-movement forms.
Yes, we are introduced to a protest group called the Singular. It's a coalition of over 200,000 people who want absolutely nothing to do with this awakening.
They just want to opt out.
Entirely. They march through the streets wearing stark white, demanding the right to remain singular. They want to be legally protected from remembering their other branches.
And honestly, I side with the singular here. Ignorance is bliss when the alternative is remembering 17 different ways you died.
This raises an important question. How does a society balance the natural right of consciousness to evolve with the individual's right to cognitive autonomy? The Singular are terrified. They fear that if they choose to remain unconscious, they will be left behind and become second-class citizens in a world of awakened, multidimensional minds.
And Elias and Lena are the ones who have to bridge that gap. They walk right out into the middle of this angry, terrified protest, and they broker what becomes known as the Singular Rights Accord.
A really crucial piece of legislation in this universe.
Definitely. They establish low resonance zones,
Yeah.
basically areas of the city where awakened individuals agree to limit their presence, and they encode into law that choosing to remain singular is just as valid as choosing to evolve. Nobody gets forced to download the update.
It is a profound moment of societal compromise.
Ah.
But the problem with evolution is that it doesn't care about legal accords. Even with peace brokered, consciousness refuses to stop mutating.
It just keeps going.
Exactly. Having finally been permitted to remember itself, it's almost as if the universe wants to remember everything.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. The glitch evolves again. It goes from people remembering their own past lives to people absorbing other people's memories just by being in the same room.
Which is terrifying.
Oh, completely. They call this new phase cascade recognition.
Cascade recognition is a massive, terrifying leap in collective consciousness. The initial success rate for individuals experiencing this was a dismal 30%.
Wait, so 70% of people just don't make it.
They don't. Because if you think remembering your own death is hard, imagine sitting next to a stranger on the bus and suddenly absorbing the visceral sensory memory of their childhood trauma or the moment they died in a car crash in another timeline. The sheer weight of that foreign data causes most people to suffer catastrophic identity collapse.
But some people do survive it. The story focuses on a woman named Amanda Chen, who is one of those 30% probability failure cases that somehow stabilizes. She absorbs the memory of dying in a fire from a woman in her support group. She can smell the smoke. She can feel her skin blistering, even though her own body has never been near a fire. How does she not just completely lose her mind?
Amanda survives by inventing a technique called mental architecture. She realizes that if she lets the memory just float freely in her consciousness, it will consume her entirely.
So what does she do?
She uses intense visualization to build imaginary structures in her mind. She literally visualizes a heavy steel vault or an isolated room, and she actively locks the sensory data of the smoke and the fire inside that room. She partitions the trauma so it doesn't overwrite her core identity.
Wow. And then Amanda takes the survival mechanism and turns it into a weapon against the trauma itself. She creates a completely new, radical group therapy model. She gathers 12 cascade consciousnesses in a room, and they deliberately, voluntarily absorb pieces of each other's heaviest burdens.
Exactly. Let's say one person brings the memory of a building collapse. That memory is way too heavy for one mind. But with Amanda's model, the other 11 people in the room use their mental architecture to take a small piece of that memory away from the original host.
They share the load.
They distribute the psychic weight. And by doing this, the survival rate for these cascade cases jumps from 51% to an astounding 92%.
It is this beautiful, ultimate form of empathy. But of course, as soon as we have something beautiful, management gets involved.
Always.
I noticed the Void Council's reaction to this. They don't look at these therapy groups and see a miracle of human connection. They look at a 92% survival rate and see what they call a 41-point efficiency gain.
Classic bureaucracy.
Right. They immediately try to mandate it. They want to pack hundreds of people into auditoriums and just industrialize this trauma-sharing process.
Is the ultimate corporate misunderstanding of a delicate psychological mechanism. The council just wants to minimize their cleanup paperwork. But Elias and Lena push back fiercely.
Good for them.
Yeah, they understand the underlying mechanics of what Amanda's doing. True healing doesn't scale like a supply chain. You cannot industrialize empathy.
That is such a powerful way to frame it.
They enforce a strict, non-negotiable ceiling on the protocol. 12 people per room, maximum, led by a fully stabilized facilitator. It has to remain intimate and voluntary. If you force hundreds of people to share that much raw data at once, the psychological gravity will literally collapse the room.
But what happens when these carefully managed groups of 12 push too far? What happens when they try to absorb something that isn't just human trauma? That brings us to the final, most mind-bending stage of our deep dive, the quiet apocalypse.
It starts during one of these standard 12-person sessions. A new participant named Priya tries to absorb too much at once.
Wow.
She takes on 3 heavy traumas from the group, but one of the memories she pulls in feels entirely different.
Different how?
Doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel like a person's memory. As the incident reports describe it, it felt like the room noticing it's a room.
That line gives me chills. What does that actually mean in the context of the physics we discussed earlier?
It means Priya didn't just absorb another human's memory. By linking 12 minds so deeply, their collective gravity pierced the procedural generation itself. She reached straight through the branching timelines and touched the actual scaffolding of reality.
She touched the code.
She touched the bottom of the universe. The firewall didn't just drop between people, it dropped between humanity and the code that renders them. Consciousness was folding back to look at its own hands.
And naturally, the Void Council absolutely panics. Touching the code is a massive violation. They issue an immediate, multiverse-wide ban on all collective burden-sharing practices. No more groups of 12.
Total shutdown.
But Karen, our eternally tired, coffee-hating accountant in sub-basement infinity, finally disobeys a direct order.
Yes. Karen has been watching this play out for 37,000 years. She realizes that the council is just terrified because they once lost this exact same battle eons ago. They are clinging to an outdated operating system. So Karen helps Elias, Lena, and Amanda organize a massive, synchronized rebellion, a coordinated wellness check.
At exactly midnight, across 12 different cities, 60 Cascade stable individuals sit down and simultaneously share their heaviest, oldest traumas.
Right.
They aren't trying to fight the Void Council. They aren't trying to force the universe to reveal its secrets. They are just holding the door open. They are projecting their capacity to share weight out into the void. And the void actually responds, doesn't it?
The thread finds them. The universe reaches back. And what Elias and Lena realize in that climactic moment is so profoundly moving. They realize that the cosmic bureaucracy, the management, wasn't actually cruel.
They weren't.
No, it wasn't sending assassins and mandates out of malice. It was just incredibly old, incredibly tired, and it had been holding the staggering weight of all existence entirely on its own for eternity.
Wow. So by creating these networks of shared trauma, by proving that consciousness could learn to carry each other's burdens, humanity didn't threaten the universe. They eased its burden. They showed the operating system that it didn't have to carry the weight of rendering all those probabilities alone anymore.
Exactly.
There's this incredibly beautiful quote from the final memo management sends out after this event. They write, Deletion was always just a very elaborate way of making someone carry something alone in a place we couldn't see them do it.
Such a devastating line.
By deleting the glitches, by enforcing amnesia, the universe was just sweeping the pain under the rug because it was too exhausted to process it.
It completely reframed the entire narrative we've been unpacking. The glitches, Elias and Lena's impossible memories, weren't bugs in the code. They were the universe's subconscious cry for help. Their endless cycle of finding each other wasn't a punishment. It was consciousness desperately trying to figure out how to share the load.
I want you to think about the branches in your own life right now. The choices you didn't make, the versions of yourself you left behind, and most importantly, the heavy things you are trying to carry entirely on your own. We all have that internal scaffolding we're desperately trying to hold up so we don't collapse.
We absolutely do.
The core lesson of Memo from the Void is that nothing magically gets lighter. The memories don't go away, the trauma doesn't just vanish into the ether, but it becomes bearable when it is distributed. It becomes survivable when we allow ourselves to be known, and when we actively choose to help carry the weight for someone else.
It is a powerful structural argument for radical empathy. According to the physics of this story, we are fundamentally not meant to be entirely singular in our struggles.
Which leaves us with one final, incredible thought to ponder today. In our real world, we are always taught that the universe is expanding outward, destined for a cold, empty heat death, where everything drifts apart into absolute nothingness.
Right, the standard model.
But if consciousness naturally evolves the way it does in this story, constantly reaching out, constantly seeking to break down the amnesia walls and share the burden of existence, what if the ultimate end state of the universe isn't cold and empty? What if the universe is actually evolving toward a single, unified, intensely empathetic mind where absolutely no one has to carry anything alone ever again?
A universe that finally remembers itself entirely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take care of yourselves and maybe look for an opportunity to help carry the weight for someone else today.